And welcome in everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. The NFL trade deadline just passed, so we're going to talk about a couple of the fantasy football impacts that have stemmed from the trade deadline, as well as a few injuries. We're going to discuss some injuries that have very much impacted fantasy football. Will, how are we doing tonight?
Okay, except that Rome Odunze cost me a game this week. What the hell? They score 40-some points and he gets zero?
Yeah.
Zero?
Caleb Williams scored more receiving points than Rome Odunze did. Colston Loveland had a big game, which was nice to see.
On my bench.
Got the concussion, so that definitely helped out a little bit. But it's good to see him kind of get out and get involved. But yeah, that was a rough game for Odunze. We'll see what happens now. Going forward, now that they kind of had the emergence of Loveland as well, they still have DJ Moore, Burden. It's a full team there. A lot of guys to get involved. So we will see. But like I said, we got two wide receiver trades we're going to discuss today: a quarterback injury and a tight end injury. We're going to kind of get around, talk about the impacts of the team that have traded for these players, and then the teams that have traded away these players. How do we change the fantasy outlook for the rest of the season? And then with the injuries, we'll talk about who can kind of come in, fill that hole that is being left on this team. But we're going to start us off with the trade that happened 2 days ago: Jacoby Myers to Jacksonville. In exchange for a fourth and a fifth round pick, I believe. But anyways, Jacoby Myers now in Jacksonville. They will have Travis Hunter on IR. Probably not a good sign that Travis Hunter is going to be coming back and being at full strength this season. Brian Thomas Jr. has been disappointing in Jacksonville. He has a low grade, high ankle sprain. I believe he still has a chance to play this week. But with Myers in here, maybe that takes a little bit of pressure off of him. Brenton Strange, hopefully back from IR. This week or next week. So in Jacksonville, they have a lot of weapons, and none of them have really been fantasy relevant so far. So for me, Jacoby Myers, I think that he can get some volume. Maybe he hurts Parker Washington, who's had a little bit of a volume play that they've had in Jacksonville. So maybe Parker Washington now isn't really a startable asset. Maybe Myers just kind of takes over that role. But for me, I don't realistically want Jacoby Myers unless I'm in a super deep league and I need a spot start. If Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't play, then maybe Myers is a good play. But for the most part, I'm out on Jacoby Myers. I don't think it hurts Brian Thomas. I think he's still the number one target. And if anyone's going to be that guy on the Jacksonville Jaguars, I still think it's him. Will, any thoughts on Jacksonville here? Are you in on Myers, or are you still?
No.
Are you in on Brian Thomas Jr.? Like, does this affect your opinion of him?
I think they are what they are this year. Okay. It's hard for me to get excited about anybody on Jacksonville, including the quarterback. Mm-hmm. It's just something's not there, and I don't know what it is. There's too much talent on that roster now for them to be consistently cranking out points. And we'll see. We'll see if Jacoby Myers helps. I don't know where the touches come from, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, with Hunter out, they had started to get him a little bit more involved. De'Ami Brown
Hunter wasn't getting a ton of touches.
He started to get more involved. De'Ami Brown also hurt now.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a place for him. I think again it comes away from Parker Washington a little bit. I think Jacoby Myers will be the wide receiver 2 behind Brian Thomas Jr. as long as Travis Hunter's out. I think that if anything, if you're in a 2 quarterback league, this helps out Trevor Lawrence a little bit. It gives him another weapon, especially with the injuries to Brian Thomas Jr., Brenton Strange, Travis Hunter. I think it's definitely helpful to get him back, or to get Jacoby Myers in this trade, and just give them another option, a guy who's proven he can get open. He's been a wide receiver 1 on a couple teams. I think now coming in to be a wide receiver 2 is really where he fits best. But he leaves a void in Las Vegas. Obviously, Brock Bowers came back, won me a couple games with his massive performance. And to be honest, that's kind of what I think you expect. Obviously, they play on Thursday. This won't be out till Friday. So I don't want to talk too much about that game in particular. But I think going forward, I think you're going to see a lot of Brock Bowers because he's by far, their best weapon. And then Ashton Genty, I think he'll get a little bit more involved in the passing game, especially as this team if they're going to be losing games. But my question really to you, Will, because I know you probably agree on both of those points, is are you taking a chance on any of these other Raiders wide receivers in redraft here more than dynasty, I think they'll bring someone else in. But for right now, rest of season, Trey Tucker, anyone really standing out to you that you would have on your roster and maybe the bye weeks?
No, and I think last week's game showed you what they're going to do. I mean, it's Pete Carroll. There's certain teams during the fantasy season, there's certain teams you look at and you just get frustrated with. And Jacksonville and Las Vegas are two of those teams. Mm-hmm. Like Genty, I think I expect personally, I own Genty in some leagues, and I expected more from Pete Carroll running the ball more. And, and Bowers, like, really, is Bowers that much the offense? I mean, it's obvious he is because we saw what happened last week, but I can't get in on any of these guys unless you need a spot start because you're in a bye week.
Yeah, I think if you're going to take a shot on one of them, you take a shot on Tucker. Even with Meyers, he's been the one who's constantly on the field. I think he's had his big weeks, so if any of them's going to do it again, probably him. He had a huge start to the season as well. So I think that Trey Tucker, if you need a wide receiver, you definitely could do worse. I would have Tucker and like Darius Slayton kind of in the same tier where they both can have big games, but they can also disappear. Like I said, I think it's going to funnel through Buck Bowers and Ashton Genty. I think they're going to have to run the ball. And Tyler Lockett, he's there, reunited with Pete Carroll, taking some snaps away from Jack Besh, which really hurts his development more than I think it helps the Raiders. But the next trade here, maybe one that has a little bit more fantasy impact for both the team that he's leaving as well as the team that he's going to, and that's Rashid Shaheed. He got traded to the Seattle Seahawks. To me, this helps Sam Darnold out a lot, gives him another weapon. JSN, I think, stays the same. He's still great. It definitely hurts Torrey Horton's ability to break out even this year into next year, because I think Seattle probably going to try and extend Shaheed. Cooper Kupp really hasn't done much for you. I think he's done.
Yeah. I think he's done too.
You don't want to play him. I think Horton has come in and proved he can be effective when he's on the field. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is, the three wide receivers. Couple still get his play, but I think Horton, Shaheed, and JSN are going to be kind of the guys. But I think JSN, to me, is the only one I really want to start out of the group. Do you have any confidence in Shaheed or Horton?
Well, Shaheed intrigues me a little bit. If Darnold keeps putting on the show he's putting on, I think Shaheed gets the role that people thought Kupp was going to get. It's still JSN's show, and I don't think that stops. But to your point, Zach, I think Kupp is done. You probably keep him on your roster, redraft, just in case. But I think Shaheed could have a good end of the season and could be a sneaky wide receiver 3 for a couple games down the season.
Yeah. With Shaheed, he's always got the ability to break a big play, and if he does that, you're going to be happy with him. Like I said, I think he'll probably slot in ahead of Horton, who, although Horton's been good, I think they traded for him. They're bringing him in. Maybe it's not this week, but maybe it's down the stretch. As I said, it helps Sam Darnold out a lot, and this offense hasn't really been able to get the running game going. So I think that this move is like, okay, the running backs Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet haven't been amazing. So Sam Darnold's been working for us. Let's just keep that going, which is good for Sam Darnold being a quarterback 2 for your Superflex leagues if you have him. And Shaheed, probably can be a couple spot starts, a flex play. But importantly for me, when you're looking at a place where he's leaving, you really weren't happy with Chris Olave last week. Jawan Johnson's has been up and down. They now have Tyler Shuck at quarterback. So you're like, okay, with Shaheed, with Kamara, with Johnson, with Olave, there's a lot to go around for a rookie quarterback to be able to support any sort of fantasy options. Now, with Shaheed gone, to me, I'm fully confident starting Chris Olave every week. I think that they're going to have to funnel targets to him. So I think for fantasy-wise, this is a big upgrade for Olave. Juwan Johnson probably now is a guy you can play at tight end. Obviously, he's not going to be a guy that's going to go out and get you, 120 yards and a touchdown every week. But, he has the opportunity to get you 6 for 60 and maybe score every couple weeks. So I like this a lot. For the Saints, fantasy options, maybe Kamara can get a couple more touches in the passing game. Not really counting on that, but for Olave, I'm happy with that. Are you also on the same page where you're confident with Olave?
If you want to try to find the icing on the cake for the Saints, I'll let you do it. That was painful to watch them play the Rams.
Mm-hmm. They had 16-minute time of possession in that game.
And I get it, right? I get what they're trying to do, but from a fantasy perspective, I don't think, unless you really need somebody, I don't think there's anybody on the Saints right now that you can play.
Yeah, I like Olave. I think that the targets are going to be there. The volume's been there with Rattler, and now I think that the volume has to be there with Shuck. They're going to have to throw the ball because they're not going to be winning games, and it might be garbage time. It might not be in games where they have a chance to win, but I do think that Olave's volume, especially PPR, half-point PPR, you will be happy with Olave for the most part. I think his floor is going to be fairly high just due to those volume numbers. We got a big quarterback injury, I guess you can call it. Kyler Murray's been placed on IR. His foot injury apparently is going to take 4 to 8 weeks to heal. That just happens to be at the time where Brissett has come in and won a couple games for them, has kept them in games with like Green Bay. He's looked good. He has been able to, Marvin Harrison Jr. really had his breakout game last week.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Most receptions.
You almost wish his dad would have said something sooner.
Yeah, most receptions he's ever had. Trey McBride has had good games with Jacoby Brissett as well. 4 touchdowns within the past 3 weeks. So for Arizona fantasy options, Trey Benson is going to come back in next, maybe not the next week, but maybe the week after when he gets back, he's going to be the RB1 for this team. So I like this a lot for all of the fantasy weapons. Kyler Murray is not going to be there scrambling. Kyler Murray is not just going to be throwing the ball away when guys are getting close to him. He's not going to be doing any of that. Jacoby Brissett will stand in there. He'll make the plays. He'll do what the coaching staff wants him to do, which is going to be feed the ball, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Trey McBride, and then give the ball to Benson. So I like this a lot for the fantasy options in Arizona. Will, do you agree? Are you also in on these fantasy options now that Kyler's not going to be starting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes. I think you saw it last week. It's just can Jacoby stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's because if he goes down, then what?
Yeah. He took a few big hits, standing in the pocket to make some throws, but they were good throws. I saw an article somewhere where they were talking about how Gannon went on a local show and said, even if Kyler was healthy, I was still going to name Jacoby Brissett the starter. And, that's where it's like, okay, this is just the easiest way for them to do this, the best way for Kyler to help him, maybe save whatever trade value he has in the offseason. But I think this is probably it for Kyler. Maybe he gets one more opportunity to start either with the Cardinals next year or somewhere else. But this is a big upgrade for the fantasy options. I think you're going to see a lot more consistency from this offense, which is really something that had been lacking.
Are you, speaking of Kyler real quick, in Dynasty, are you trading for him?
No. I strongly dislike all of the locker room things that have come out about Kyler. I don't like the whole off the field stuff. I don't love his play style where he hates taking hits ever since he's been injured. He really can't stand in the pocket. He really doesn't make the smart plays a lot of the time. So for me, I'm out on Kyler Murray. Not to say if the Kyler Murray owner is like, okay, I'm done with him, and kind of thinking the same as me, maybe you can get him in a super flex league where a starting quarterback next year in a super flex league is valuable. So if you do have some sort of confidence that you're like, okay, fantasy, he's going to run the ball, and if I'm in a super flex league, then maybe he does have some value going into next year because I think he will get at least one more chance to start.
Yeah.
But are you interested in trading for Kyler in dynasty leagues?
It would have to be really low of a low buy. Like,
would you rather have Tyler Shuck or Kyler Murray in a dynasty league?
Wow, that's a mean question to ask. Why? You chose violence for that question. I don't want any stock of Tyler Shuck because they're reaffirming what they already know. Mm-hmm. If you're going to play him all season, that would have told me they think they had something. They're putting him down to make sure they don't have anything because they know who they're going to draft number one. It's going to be a quarterback, no doubt in my mind. So I'm not buying any of him. I would buy some Kyler if I can get in at a reasonable price. The problem with the Superflex leads is people who own him right now are going to want first or a second, and he's not worth that. Yeah. So if Kyler's on your roster and you're not competing, get a pick for him while you can, even if it's not what you think it's worth, because he's just gonna. The odds are you'll have him on your roster next year. He probably won't hit, and then Then you're just gonna cut him.
Yeah, I think in the 12-person Superflex league, I think he's probably worth a late second-round pick, just due to the fact that quarterbacks are so valuable. Look in our league. Joe Flacco went for a second. Jake Browning went for a second earlier this season. That's kind of what the going rate is. Exactly. I think Kyler will play next year. So that's what I'm saying. If you can get a late second to get him this year in what maybe isn't as strong of a draft class where a late second-round pick is really a flyer, and then you have him for next year and you have your 2027 second-round pick, that's kind of where I would be at if you're looking in that direction. But definitely I'm not super high on him, but that's what I'd be willing to give up if I'm really not needing that pick. And one more injury, which I think is huge for himself. Yes. Tucker Kraft on IR now with the ACL injury he suffered against the Carolina Panthers. He really was making this Green Bay offense go. It wasn't, him just catching the ball 20 yards down the field. It was him catching the ball 5 yards down the field and then running for 20, 30, 40 yards. Maybe he caught the ball 20 yards down the field and then he ran for an extra 40. It was really what he was doing after the catch that was helping this offense go. It hasn't been Jordan Love. He's been way too inconsistent. But now this Green Bay Packers offense has to go to somebody in the passing game. We talked about it a little bit last week. Mm-hmm. Both of us said if we're going to take our shot on any of these wide receivers, it would be Christian Watson, just because he came in, he looked good, and now without Tucker Kraft there, they have to rely on somebody, and I think it will be Watson again. Just wanted to bring it up that I'm still in on Watson, despite the entirety of a bad performance from Green Bay last week. I think Christian Watson's still the guy you take the bet on. I don't see Luke Musgrave coming in and really replicating what Tucker Kraft was doing. I had a bunch of people ask me, do I pick up Luke Musgrave? I'm like, you can, but I don't see him coming and earning the targets that Kraft had. And then even if he does earn the same amount of targets, he's not going to do the same with the ball in his hand. So I don't think it's going to be valuable. So I think Christian Watson's really what you got in this offense. Do you agree there, Will?
Yeah. And Reed's coming back. So maybe take a fly, because someone's going to be the secondary recipient of a few touches. And I think it'll be Reed, but Green Bay, another team that's just not putting up the numbers you thought fantasy-wise they would put up. I don't think anyone expected Kraft to put up the numbers he was putting up. Not at all.
Yeah, I think that was a good surprise. A lot of people were high on him coming into the season, but he really did kind of step into that, wide receiver one role, even though he's a tight end. He was the go-to guy. I like Jaden Reed a lot. I think that he can fill that role better than Christian Watson can. Christian Watson is more of a down-the-field guy, where Jaden Reed can kind of do it all. But when is Jaden Reed back? Is it in 2 weeks, 4 weeks? He had the foot and the shoulder injury, if I'm not mistaken.
2 3 weeks.
So,
Green Bay has to figure, are you going to rush him? They have a vacancy now. They didn't trade for anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't go get Cleveland. It's tied in. Maybe Cleveland was asking too much, but
yeah.
It really hurts Green Bay.
It does. It hurts Green Bay a lot. They just lost to the Panthers, which a lot of people didn't expect to see coming. But it really shows you they had Tucker Kraft for half that game, and their offense still couldn't get it going. Jordan Love was making bad throws. The running game didn't look good. So when you pile all of that on against not a great defense in Carolina. Carolina is not a top 10 defense.
Yeah.
As a Panthers fan myself, I'm going to admit that the Panthers aren't a top 10 defense. That was Green Bay not being able to convert in the red zone was a huge issue for them because they really didn't have anyone to go to. Because if you took away Tucker Kraft, that was it. And now you don't even have to take away Tucker Kraft. So until Jaden Reed comes back, I think that's going to be a really, really bad spot for them. Matthew Golden really hasn't amounted to what a first-round wide receiver should be able to do on this team, where there is nothing but opportunity. Green Bay is begging for one of these guys to break out and really demand the targets, and it's just been Dobbs. Dobbs is like, hey, guys, I'm here. Give me my 6 to 7 targets a game. But that's really all Dobbs. Dobbs has been good, and Dobbs is probably a great wide receiver too. But he wants someone else to break out and be the wide receiver one. And it just hasn't happened. For Jordan Love, obviously we're in a 2-quarterback dynasty league or Superflex, both essentially the same thing. But what do you think Jordan Love's value is at this point? Because everyone kind of thought that he would be the next Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, where he is going to be this guy that's going to be playing for 10 plus years. And I'm not so sure with the way he's playing now at 27, 28 that he's going to be that guy for Green Bay.
Yeah, I think Green Bay has put themselves in a box with the trade.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what do you do? And from a fantasy perspective, I think, honestly, if you have assets that are Packers, and especially if you're going into a rebuild league in a dynasty, actually, I think it may be time to move them. While there's still speculation that Green Bay can be good. And even if they put up a few good games the rest of the year, in Dynasty, if you can get a first round for Jordan Love right now, I think you have to really consider it. And if you should get a first round in a Superflex, but if you can get a first in something else, first in
I think
second. Yeah,
I think Superflex,
consider it.
You might be able to squeeze 2 firsts. I wouldn't mind if you're rebuilding, flip him for Joe Burrow straight up. Yeah. Maybe you give a little something to get Joe Burrow, who's sitting on IR, just to be able to move off of Jordan Love, because I think Joe Burrow is great. He is that guy. Jordan Love to me is not that guy. If I can move Jordan Love, that's something I'm looking at in a dynasty league. Even if I'm competing, if I can move him for a guy who's going to be more consistent this year and get something. Like if you're competing, do you move Jordan Love for Stafford in a first?
Yeah. I think you're at that point in the season where the buys, you're kind of out of the buy hell. So look, if you could, to your point, if you Stafford for this season,
for like dynasty, if you're competing, Stafford's going to help you more than Jordan Love will. And if you can get picks back, or if you can get another player to help you compete, I think that's something you should definitely look at. But I'm not, like I said, not super high on Kyler or Jordan Love going forward, but I think Jordan Love will be the guy in Green Bay for a few more seasons. Not saying that you don't have to move him, but it's just not quite as prosperous as it once was, where Jordan Love was going to be a top 10 quarterback week in and week out. Will apparently has decided he has had enough talking to Green Bay. Vikings fans, they don't like to talk about Green Bay. Thought we were doing good because we were trash talking Green Bay, but oh well, Will, we're going to end it there anyway. So thank you for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you again next week.
Great. Thanks. I don't know what happened there. It was a glitch, huh?
Yeah.